Around 7:30 in the morning on September 16th, Typhoon Bebinca, the 13th typhoon of the year, made landfall near Lingang New City in Pudong, Shanghai. It arrived with tremendous force. The city was hit by fierce winds and torrential rain, creating a scene that looked straight out of a disaster movie. It was so dark that it seemed like the sky was covered. Cyclists on the road abandoned their bikes and clung to trees for safety. Inside a mall, the lottery booth was blown away, and rooftops were ripped off in several places. Windows in residential areas were torn from their frames and smashed to the ground. The 632-meter-high Shanghai Tower's 100-ton damper swayed more than a meter. Typhoon Bebinca tore through Shanghai with brutal force. The outer walls of buildings were blown off, and sparks flew from power lines. After making landfall, the storm uprooted trees along the roads in Lingang, snapping roadside signs and leaving the entire area in chaos. On Huaihai Road, strong winds sent an advertising board crashing to the ground in an instant. Despite the storm, there was a couple who got married in the wind, but even the groomsman couldn't hold on to his umbrella. Heavy rains fell across Shanghai, and the trees lining the streets were whipped back and forth by the wind. It was almost impossible for pedestrians to stay standing. People were tossed around, fences at construction sites were blown away, and power poles and street trees were uprooted. A truck was even overturned by the storm. In the middle of the typhoon, people tried to shield themselves from the rain with umbrellas, but the wind immediately tore the umbrellas from their hands, leaving only the frames behind. Air conditioners hanging outside buildings were swinging like leaves in the wind. Watching them sway was nerve-wracking, and eventually they broke off. After the typhoon, air conditioning units in a residential area of the district were blown down. It seemed like they weren't properly secured with screws when installed and were simply placed on platforms. At around 9 a.m. on the 16th, a powerful gust of wind blew away the air conditioning unit of a fourth-floor resident. The next-door neighbor only heard a loud bang and saw that the air conditioner had fallen off, hanging mid-air by just one condenser pipe, ready to crash to the ground at any moment. Some neighbors' windows were shattered by falling debris. The underground garage was also left in a mess. After Typhoon Bebinca made landfall in Pudong, water leaks became severe in high-rise apartments. One person shared online that they were hungry and had to keep draining water non-stop. In the end, they had no choice but to sacrifice 2 large buckets and 5 towels to block the water. It wasn't until a few hours later, when the typhoon had passed and the rain started to ease around 2 p.m., that they could finally eat, still worrying about a possible power outage. I live behind here, and it feels like a tornado is ripping through. The wind is so fierce, it feels like the house is about to collapse. A Shanghai resident captured the terrifying power of Typhoon Bebinca on camera, showing large sections of wall tiles and windows being blown away. The wind howled, and a large truck was nearly overturned. The driver behind it watched in horror. Many people on the road were riding electric scooters and were knocked over by the typhoon. Some had to abandon their vehicles and to roadside trees to avoid being blown away. After Typhoon Bebinca made landfall in Lingang New City, Pudong, wind speeds reached level 14. The 1,000-ton damper inside Shanghai Tower began to sway noticeably. The typhoon brought strong winds and heavy rainfall to Shanghai. People were curious, how do skyscrapers remain stable in such extreme weather? In Shanghai Tower, the tallest building in China at 632 meters, 1,000-ton damper known as a stabilizer began to swing. Shanghai Tower is located in Lujiazui, with a structural height of 580 meters and a total weight of 850,000 tons. The damper is located at the top of the 126th floor, 584 meters above the ground. When the building sways due to the force of the wind, the damper's inertia generates a counteracting force, swinging in the opposite direction to reduce the vibration of the skyscraper. When strong winds blow, the pulling force created by the weight swinging on the rooftop is greater because the arm is shorter, which helps decrease the tilt of the building and keeps it stable during extreme weather conditions. In Shanghai, only 2 skyscrapers are equipped with such dampers, Shanghai Tower and the Shanghai World Financial Center. The damper uses an eddy current technique, which has also been applied to maglev trains and other engineering projects. During Typhoon Bebinca, Shanghai Tower's damper swung by 1 meter. It's said that the damper's maximum swing can reach up to 2 meters. This news sparked heated discussions, with some jokingly saying, "This is truly leading the way by far." One resident exclaimed, "Our high-rise buildings here are all swaying. Without a damper, there's no sense of security." Shanghai Tower is one of the Lujiazhui trio, alongside the Shanghai World Financial Tower, which is 492 meters tall with 101 floors, and the Jinmao Tower, standing at 420.5 meters with 88 floors, or 93 if you count the spire. Typhoon Bebinca is the strongest typhoon to hit Shanghai in 75 years. On the morning of September 16th at 11 a.m., the Shanghai Meteorological Center upgraded the heavy rain yellow alert to an orange alert, forecasting that most areas of the city would experience over 100 millimeters of rainfall. Wind speeds at the top of the Lujiazhui trio skyscrapers were expected to reach level 15. Journalists on the ground witnessed the destruction caused by Bebinca in Shanghai, noting how the Lujiazhui trio, normally iconic landmarks on the Bund, vanished into the clouds, with only the Oriental Pearl Tower visible. The powerful winds and rain also uprooted streetlight poles. This typhoon led to the suspension of certain bus routes in districts like Pudong New Area, Jiading, Songjiang, and Qingpu. By noon on the 16th, it was nearly impossible to walk at the Bund, as people couldn't even stand. Videos show a young man on an electric scooter being struck by a falling tree, pinned to the ground and unable to move, while bystanders tried to help. Ms. Wei from Shanghai, in an interview with local media, shared that her car was hit by a fallen tree. "We live in a residential area in Kangqiao, Pudong New Area. Many trees were blown down here, and my car was crushed by a tree. Even though I parked in a spot with no trees around, someone's potted plant fell on it." In the neighborhood group chat, many residents posted about water leaking into their homes, from windows, air conditioners, even light fixtures. A couple living in Minhang District told the BBC they initially thought this typhoon would be similar to those of previous years. As late as 10 p.m. on the 15th, they were debating whether to visit the zoo the next morning for the Mid-Autumn Festival. They hadn't anticipated how heavy the rain would be. By the morning of the 16th, they were woken by the howling wind and rain. They checked to ensure their doors and windows were securely locked, only to see the wall covering of a neighboring building torn off, crashing into cars parked below. The couple described how Typhoon Bebinca made landfall at Dishui Lake in Pudong, with level 14 winds that destroyed structures at construction sites, ripping open exterior walls and flipping steel fences. In another part of the city, a section of a residential building's wall fell and smashed into parked cars. Security guards in their complex went door to door, asking residents to move their cars to prevent further damage from the next wave of wind and rain. Liu and Hu had just moved into their new rental home and, not expecting the typhoon to be much different from past storms, had only stocked up on some instant noodles. Now they planned to borrow food from their neighbors. Hu joked that she had been considering buying a home in a nearby neighborhood for their future wedding, but she said, "The typhoon has helped me filter out those options. It seems none of the houses in this area are very sturdy." Another Shanghai resident, Mr. Peng, said he had never seen a typhoon this intense or experienced one cutting straight through the city center. Fortunately, the typhoon hit during the mid-autumn holiday, so his elderly family members and children were all safely at home, and they had enough to eat. Peng remarked, "I've lived in Shanghai for 21 years, and this is the first time I've encountered a direct typhoon landfall. I saw the windows across the street blow out this morning, and the property staff tied them with ropes to prevent water from getting in, but otherwise there's not much damage here." Some users online reported several hours of power outages during the typhoon, with long stretches of road barricades blown into the middle of the street, causing traffic hazards. Comments flooded social media, with people saying, "This typhoon is brutal. No water, no electricity, no internet. The wind and rain outside are terrifying. I'm starving. No food delivery, no power, and I didn't prepare any food. I might just stick my head out the window and drink the rainwater." Due to Typhoon Bebinca, the water level of the Huangpu River surged. According to the Chinese Meteorological Department, when the typhoon made landfall, the maximum wind speed reached 42 meters per second. Starting from the evening of the 15th, all ferry routes, island transportation, and river cruises in Shanghai were suspended, and the maglev train service ended early. All flights at Pudong and Hongqiao airports after 8 p.m. on the 15th were cancelled. As of the 16th, over 414,000 people across Shanghai had been relocated. Major attractions like Shanghai Disneyland, Jinjiang Amusement Park, and Shanghai Wildlife Park were temporarily closed. In the nearby city of Zhoushan, restaurants, supermarkets, and shops shut down, and public transportation was suspended. Chief forecaster Zhao Yuanming at the Shanghai Meteorological Center explained that sea surface temperatures had been unusually high for the past 2 months, providing enough energy for the typhoon to develop rapidly. Bebinca is considered a bullet-type typhoon, characterized by its small size, fast movement, and rapid intensification. By the evening of September 16th, local authorities reported that 3 houses had been damaged, 2,328 trees had been uprooted, 1,461 flights were cancelled, and 577 train services had been halted. Bebinca is not to be underestimated. It is the strongest typhoon to make a direct hit on Shanghai in 75 years. The last major typhoon to significantly impact the city was Typhoon Gloria in 1949, which caused 1,613 deaths across Shanghai. Typhoon Bebinca's impact extended beyond Shanghai. On the afternoon of September 16th, it passed through Kunshan, Suzhou, and Changzhou in Jiangsu province, reaching Wuxi by 5 p.m., with wind speeds of up to level 11. By the evening, it lingered briefly in Nanjing before heading towards Anhui early on the 17th, and by nighttime it was rushing towards Henan. This fast pace led netizens to joke that Typhoon Bebinca seemed to follow the Shanghai-Nanjing high-speed railway, with some humorously claiming it had taken all the high-speed train tickets during the Mid-Autumn Festival. This fast pace led netizens to joke that Typhoon Bebinca seemed to follow the Shanghai-Nanjing high-speed railway, with some humorously claiming it had taken all the high-speed train tickets during the Mid-Autumn Festival. By the afternoon of the 16th, the typhoon had already made landfall in Suzhou, where intense winds shattered glass windows, collapsed walls, and caused widespread damage. At Taicang's Liuhe River, around 10 a.m., wind speeds reached 37.5 meters per second, or level 13. The nearby Kunshan also experiencing level 10 winds. At the southern tip of Suzhou's Dianshan Lake, waves over 1 meter high crashed against the shore, driven by the violent winds and rain. After Typhoon Bebinca entered Suzhou, fierce winds ravaged the city, causing windows to shatter and building walls to collapse wherever it passed, inflicting significant damage. In Suzhou, a large tree was uprooted by the typhoon and fell on a food delivery driver, trapping him between the branches. According to the China Central Meteorological Observatory, as of noon on the 16th, Typhoon Bebinca had entered Kunshan, Jiangsu province, with maximum winds near the center reaching 13 on the Beaufort scale, at 38 meters per second. The typhoon is expected to continue moving further inland. Residents of Suzhou described the extreme conditions, with streets littered with debris, including garbage, tree branches, and even broken roof tiles. Solar panels on rooftops were destroyed, and loose debris flying through the air posed serious risks to people outside. Lin and his neighbors chose to stay indoors, fearing for their safety. In Zhejiang, where Typhoon Bebinca first made landfall in the early hours of the 16th, the coastal waters experienced waves of 5 to 7 meters, with nearshore areas facing waves as high as 9 meters. As a result, Hangzhou Airport canceled 185 flights, and several tourist spots were closed. The Hangzhou International Expo Center became an emergency shelter for 4,700 migrant workers, with rows of temporary beds set up in the venue. By 4 p.m., Bebinca reached Changzhou, where it caused widespread damage, including uprooted trees, fallen air conditioning units, and crumbling building facades. Power outages were reported across parts of the city due to damaged electrical lines, leaving some residents without electricity.
哎呦，掉下来了，那个头上已经松了，哎呦，哇靠！
While Typhoon Bebinca had not yet fully passed, the next storm, Typhoon Pulasan, was already forming. Chinese meteorological reports indicated that Pulasan, the 14th typhoon of the year, might follow a similar path to Bebinca, potentially impacting the Shanghai region. Additionally, over the next 10 days, 1 to 2 more typhoons were expected to form in the South China Sea and Northwest Pacific, with one possibly affecting southeastern China. Experts warn that extreme weather events in China have become more frequent, with concurrent floods, typhoons, and droughts severely disrupting daily life and causing significant damage. Climate scientists emphasize that human activities, especially massive carbon emissions, are pushing the planet towards more dangerous climate extremes. As the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, China is facing growing threats from global warming, which is causing typhoons to form closer to the coast, intensify more rapidly, and linger over land for longer periods, increasing their destructive power.